Alright, I'm going to play my sub-heroic Shark Boy. So this is my mod. Oh, and Cole 3 and 5 gifted. Holy smokes, my mind is blown right now. Okay, let's go C5. So we're going to play like a Sicilian structure against 1B3. And now, oh my god, Jossi Miku with a 64 party raid. Let's develop our knight. And let's control more of the center with D5. Okay, so this is a reverse Nimzo Indian. And how should we deal with this pin? How should we deal with this pin? Thank you guys so much, appreciate it. Amazing. So queen c7, but remember the rule, when you can use a lesser value piece rather than a queen, that is generally a good idea. So, what is the simplest? Not every one of your pieces needs to be distributing the COVID vaccine. Bishop d7 is the simplest. Now, we need to get this bishop out. We have two ways of doing that. The move g6, I'll show this after the game, is a little bit dubious on account of bishop takes f6. And that kind of ruins our pawn structure in a way that I don't want, so let us play e6. And eventually, no, we're going to play a6, but there's no rush in playing a6. Now, let's go bishop out to d6. That is the more active square. You see that he took on his own volition. Now, we don't want to let... Well, we actually really do. So let's... So this is a really interesting position. Knight b3 gifting to Jossi Miku. How can we ensure that this knight leaves e5? And this is a move that I need to spell out after the game, because explaining it now would take me a little bit too long. But we're going to play the move knight out to d7. We are basically going to try to force a trade. Now, I know a lot of you are thinking, wait a second, this blunders the pawn. What are you doing? What are you doing? Okay, but give it a chance, because if he takes that pawn, he opens up the g file, and that basically gives us massive attacking opportunities. So this is better than queen c7, because there white can play f4 and cement the knight. He plays f4 anyway, but guess what? Now we can simply take the knight anyway, and then our queen could potentially access the g5 square, which has been opened up as a consequence of him taking with the f-pawn. We always need to ask ourselves that question. When the position has transformed substantively, as I've argued time and time again, we ask ourselves, okay, how has the position transformed? Etko watches, tier 1ing, thank you. What should we do now? That was a bit of a blunder. That was a bit of a blunder. Look around the whole position. Take on e3. And now, should we take on d4? Yes or no? Should we take on d4? What do you guys think? So here, holy smokes! Etko watches. Oh my god, 25. Who is this man? We got more hype. We should, because we destroy his pawn chain. Again, after the game, I will guide you through the exact logic, but wait a minute. Wait a minute. We got 25 from Etko watches. Who is this guy? He's on fire. Oh my god, guys. I can't believe this. It just happens every day now, and you will bring me to tears eventually. This is unbelievable. Okay, but we got a game to win, and I think that's what he wants from us. So let's castle. We got to complete our development. We got to complete our development. Okay, let's not forget about that. Now, can you guys propose a way to simply improve the position? What is a sort of a typical classic move in such a position to improve the position? Well, it's too early for f6. Yeah, rook c8, rook a to c8. Now, we're leaving this rook on f8 for a very specific reason. Later, we might want to play... Okay, so he goes rook f3. That's a good move. Now, this pawn we don't need to worry about. That pawn is irrelevant. Innovative... Oh, my God! 17 from Innovative Panda. This is unreal. Unfrickin' real. We're going to bring our queen back for the defense of the f7 pawn. Overprotection. And now we are ready for a particular kind of move. Well, we'll see. This is unbelievable. Thank you, Innovative, for 17. I mean, you guys are something else. Absolutely something else. Okay, let's go b6 for now. Let's go b6 and blunt the bishop. Okay, so actually this... I haven't played this ideally. I think I'm... Okay. So we need to change up the position. We need to give our pieces some air. How do we pump up the air on the king side? What move? I previously mentioned this move. We rejected it previously, but now it's time for this move, and that is the move f6. And the way I would encourage you guys to think about this is we just we get some air to breathe on the king side. So g6 I'll talk about after the game as well. Thanks again, both of you. You're freaking beasts. You're freaking beasts. Okay. Ed Kawachis says, I gotta go. No problem. Thanks, man, for the 25. You are a boss. And you can shoot me an email, by the way. Though, and $3 from 9-0 also. So knight f6, of course. We don't want to play gf. Okay. What now? What do we do? How do we close down the e-file? Or actually, do we have anything? Ooh, we have something sexy. We have something sexy, guys. Okay. Oh, actually, no, we don't. We don't. Knight g5. I thought it was knight 94 is the move. Yeah. I thought we had something cool. Forget it. It didn't work. I'll show you guys after the game what I thought. Let me write this down. But I am starting to hallucinate. Okay, so we're up a pawn. We have a passed pawn on e4. And what he's just done is he's moved the rook away from f1. How should we exploit that? How do we do that? What should we do in order to exploit that? We should do is double the rooks, right? We should double the rooks because he's removed the rook from the f-file, which logically means, and now let's go e5, intercepting the bishop, not letting it get to us. And now we can, oh, no, we can't because of queen c4, winning the bishop. So let's first go, let's cover some ground here with a move. Let's go queen e6, stopping queen c4, controlling the square, centralizing our queen. And then we are going to complete the doubling of our rooks. I have to give credit here to Shark. He's defending very, very well. But you guys should be able to see and to sense that the position is starting to slip away from him, I think. Okay, so here, I'm not sure about this, actually. Let me think. So let's go rook c7. Let's defend everything. And then we can swing the rook around to f7. Oh my god. Oxy Time gifting 10 freaking subscriptions. This is unbelievable. Oxy Time now getting into the party. Another 10 subs. You guys are crazy. I'm just saying that. h6 to create the little hole for our king. Now we got to go rook h7. We might get there tonight at this rate. This is unbelievable. Yeah, so I'm playing a little bit fast here because of the time constraints, but I'll spell everything out after the game. So what I'm going to try to do here is just tuck the king away. Tuck the king away. And everything is going to be easier with the king tucked away. Now we're going to intercept the queen's control over f1. And we're going to tempt him into taking on a7, which may be good. Okay, king h2 is really, really good. Man, Shark is playing incredibly well here as well. My opponents today, gotta give them credit. Rook f6. I'm trying to get the rook over to g6 in order to contest that other rook. Okay, now, oh my god, man, Ravaged Banana, subs flying in. Holy smokes! Ravaged Banana Min, you're crazy, man. 5 and 5. Oh my lands, girls and boys, this is crazy. Absolutely freaking insane. And I might lose this game. Let me focus here for a second. This is amazing, guys. 66-71. Okay, let's go e3. Let's open up the position. Now let's go bishop e4. Yeah, Shark is playing this ridiculously well. Thank you so much, Min. Thank you, Ravaged Banana. This guy is a beast. That is why he's my mod. And that is why he's my friend. He's good as hell. Okay, let me go here. This is actually a draw now. But I'm going to try to win this. Oh my god, cash flow real. He's throwing them in. The subs are coming in. Oh god, this is bad. This is very bad, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to lose this. Oh, draw. Good job, Shark. Whew. Amazing game. Amazing game by Shark. No, come on, but you played really well. Don't be down on yourself for not winning that. That was incredible. That was incredible. That was a great fight. Cashflow Real, thanks for the 10 gifted. That's my first draw, actually. That is my freaking first draw. Amazing. Okay, so lots happened here. Lots happened here. I think I was better for most of the game, but that was incredibly played, so... Okay. So we can check, yeah. Lost only 3 rating points for that. B3 can't lose, that's right. Look at the accuracy. Okay, this is okay, guys, look at this. Frickin' look at this. This is called effort from both of us. You believe that? Well, well, well. Well, well, well. Okay, that's some effort. Yeah, back and forth we went. So basically, like, there's so much to unpack here. I'm excited about this. Now let's unpack this for a second. So basically, basically this one was good. Okay, this man is gonna be a GM one day. So, okay, so this is normal. Bishop d7. Okay, bishop d7. Yeah, I actually have before. Essentially ensuring that bishop c6 is not going to double our pawns. Okay, e6. Now, g6 is also possible, but then bishop takes f6. Forces us to take this way. And now white strikes in the center with c4. So, you know, this is very undesirable. So e6, d3, bishop d6. Shark takes it and goes 95. Okay, now queen c7 is kind of the typical move, but the problem here is he goes f4. Thanks again, guys, for the subs. Incredible, almost 6,700. I can't believe it. Okay, anyways, I'm really hyped right now. So f4 defends the knight, and what I want you guys to see is that it's very hard now to dislodge this knight. So knight d7 basically forces the knight out of e5. Now, if knight takes c6 and bishop takes g7, right? This is, I think, what would make a lot of people hesitate. I ruled this out intuitively. Like, my understanding here was that, okay, I go rook g8, and look at the pieces aimed at the king side. What move would combine this and create an attack? Like, can you guys give me an example of a good move here? Which, and to be fair, I don't think that maybe black has full compensation objectively, but something like queen h4 or queen g5, all of these are good. Yep. So queen g5, for example, inducing g3, and black can always castle long. Yes, castling long contains its own risks, but this is all about buying yourself time. Buying yourself time in order to continue the attack. This gets very, very messy. This is a typical Naroditsky BS sacrifice, but you guys get the rationale now. So f4. Okay, so takes queen g5, and here Shark makes a mistake. d4 is, I think, the only mistake of the game. And this, of course, allows me to take on e3, which is kind of undesirable. And instead, I think that the move, probably queen f3, was to be preferred, attacking f7. And only after castling something like d4, I think the position is about equal here. Although black maybe goes f6, and because white is not developed, I think black has the initiative. That's how I would phrase it. But after d4, queen e3, the reason I took on d4 is because this, if you guys think about it, is a pawn chain. What I just highlighted is a pawn chain. How do you deal with pawn chains? You try to undermine the base. And here I literally have a chance to immediately destroy the pawn chain. So I figured, okay, this creates another weakness on e5, and this weakness is going to be hard to defend. So queen e2 castles, knight c3, and here I actually think I made perhaps a mistake. I'm not sure where exactly I went wrong, but it was somewhere around this point that Shark started playing incredibly well. Rook f3 is a really good move. Rook f3 is a really good move because this sends the rook to g3 and it prepares to double rooks. All of a sudden I realized my king could end up being in some trouble if the rook is lifted to g3. How would we refer to the bishop on d4? What does it have a lot of? Time, guys, to use our vocabulary. To go full circle. What does it have a lot of? Potential. Potential energy, exactly. It has a lot of potential energy because the moment this pawn is gone, the moment it's gone, The bishop is going to be the greatest beast in the world. It is also a bad bishop defending a good pawn, which essentially means that it has potential energy. That is why I was discouraged from playing f5, although this is the computer stop move. f5 en passant, and now black has a move that I missed. Could anybody spot it? What intermediate move does black now have to kill the potential energy of the bishop? To kill its potential energy, and that is the move e5, not being afraid of anything like this because of rook takes f3 and e takes d4. So this would have been, I think, my biggest chance at a big advantage, but I dropped the queen back, now doubling rooks, b6, and rook h3, just continuing the attack. f6 is correct, and now rook e3. Now the sexy move that I thought that I have is knight to g4. The line that I calculated was the following. Rook takes f... Okay, so if queen takes g4, then it's checkmate. So rook takes f8 happens. And again, if queen takes g4, then this is checkmate. But white has this move. What do you guys think that I hallucinated when calculating this line? What idea? Quick select, another sub with prime. Thank you, sir. Yeah, and I thought, oh, rook f1, bishop g1, knight f2 checkmate. It is check, Daniel. So this doesn't work. That is why we have to cover up the e file with knight e4. So takes. Okay, now the bishop covers the pawn. And my bishop now has a lot of potential energy. So we have a reversal of fortune in regards to the bishop. Now my bishop has a lot of potential energy. The moment the rook moves away from e3, I have to consider the move e3 opening up the diagonal. Okay, I hope I'm making sense in the way that I'm looking at this position. So rook e1, doubling rooks, e5 to kill white's bishop. Queen a6 is really strong. And what Shark did really well here is he continues to find counterplay in every type of position. Rook d1, getting the open file. h3, and now very patient. h3, a4, improving the position. a5. Wouldn't f8 have defended a7? In which position? Oh, you mean here? Well, the problem is no, because this is not mate. You have to understand that there's bishop g1. That is the issue, right? Bishop g1 is a very nasty move, and now white is threatening checkmate. But that's why I saw the need to defend a7. h6 to stop rook d, to take the sting out of it. And okay, so here, rook 5 to f6. I'm trying to go to g6 to eliminate the rook, but rook d8 comes. I decide to exploit the weakening of the first rank, but queen c8 is super strong because this forces a queen trade, and a queen trade is good for white. Why? Because now white's bishop is a lot stronger than my bishop. My bishop is still staring at the pawn. White's bishop is multitasking. It's being a beast, and it's blockading my own bishop. So an endgame leads to a clear disparity in white's pieces being more active than mine, and even though I'm technically still up a pawn, look at how weak all of these pawns are, and Shark just mows them down. Bishop c5, I'm not sure about. This lets me open up my bishop. But still, he continues to mow down the pawns. Takes. In this position, black is the one fighting for equality. Now, I was able to maintain equality. This is just a draw. And ultimately, we ran into a time scramble. So I'll skip the rest of the game here. But really an incredibly played middle game by Shark. I think I played quite well as well. But such a rich game. So many things happened here. So many concepts that we can observe here. So after h6, couldn't he have played bishop takes h6? Well, remember there is a queen here. The queen actually defends the pawn, and what Devronicus is saying, okay, pawn takes is not possible because of the pin, but there is a queen on e6 guarding that square. Okay, is that clear? The analysis said he made a blunder. Well, I think the blunder, white's only mistake, I think, was giving the pawn. I'm not sure where I went wrong. I think most of my moves were very sensible. I think somewhere here, maybe I didn't find the most decisive way to act. And I think, well, as I indicated before, f5 on move 17, I think was the cleanest path to a big advantage. Because, yeah, because if white doesn't take en passant, then I get air to breathe for my pieces. I can go rook f7. I don't have to worry about my king. I can sort of relocate my focus on other sides of the board. And what I missed was this move e5, right? Missing these tactics, oftentimes what decides the game at this very high level, if that makes sense. Let's play push to pawn. Let's go. We are black again. So that's fine with me. Oh, the things are misaligned. One sec. I don't know why it's so misaligned, but let's play an opening called the Chigorin. Yeah, I'm not sure why it's so misaligned, guys. I don't know what happened. This is really annoying. Yeah, not sure what happened here. Sorry, guys, 1 sec, please. Yeah, why don't we just ignore this for now? So he plays a London system. Well, by the time I correct this, I'm actually going to lose on time, which is kind of ironic. Yeah, I'm not sure where my time is. Okay, there we go. Okay. So let's take it. Let's take it. No, I wanted you guys to see the time. So this is the London system. And we will just develop our pieces here. There is nothing really to write home about, just developing our pieces. Now, what would be a good way to develop this bishop? Who can propose for me a nice little... Like, what are the 2 possibilities here for developing this bishop? Obviously, the first one is e6, but let's fianchetto. The reason I want to fianchetto it, I don't want to close off the diagonal for this bishop. And there is a very specific reason why I didn't want to develop the light-squared bishop first. There is a very specific reason why I didn't want to develop the light-squared bishop first, which I will explain after the game. It related to weakening this b7 pawn. So we solved the problem by first fianchetto. We can even pre-move castling here. We're basically going to castle against anything other than bishop a6. And my headphones just died, so you guys will have to not hear the move sounds for a little bit. My freaking headphones constantly are dying. Now, here's the interesting thing. I'm going to make a move which to a lot of you guys will seem very bad. And it will seem very bad because it ruins the kingside pawn structure. What move am I thinking of? Who wants to tell me the move that may seem to ruin the kingside pawn structure? Well, it's not h5. It's actually bishop f5. And you guys might be looking at this and saying, girl, what are you doing? You're opening up the kingside. But here's the thing. There's a couple extenuating circumstances. If he takes on f5, and let's hope he does, I get very good control of the center, particularly the e4 square, number 1. Number 2, because I fianchettoed my bishop and I have a knight on f6 and my queen is nearby, I have a lot of beef on the king side. And white doesn't really have attacking prospects. It's hard for white to get a lot of pieces into the king side quickly. I'll show this after the game. But this is a very typical move in these positions. I'm sure even this position exactly has occurred before. So you shouldn't be afraid necessarily to play a move like this. And you want to tie this into the concrete circumstances on the board. The higher rated we get, the more concrete our considerations have to become. Okay. Yeah, people say I sound better with the headphones off. Okay, so he attacks the pawn. Now, there is a very interesting subtlety here. If we go queen to d7, first of all, if we go b6, actually, let's just go b6. I don't see why not. I was a little bit concerned about removing the defender on my knight, but we can always defend it with rook c8, so I really don't see the problem in this. And now we can position our knight on e4. We can also beef up the pawns by going e6 and sort of securing everything here a little bit further. Knight a5 is also possible, although I don't want to keep that knight on the rim. But in the future, we can absolutely play knight a5. Let's see what he does. It really depends on how white decides to play this. Okay, so knight bd2, let's first of all go e6. Let's secure these pawns. We don't have to rush with the move knight e4. That's not really going anywhere. That's actually one of the key long-term plans of going king h8, rook g8, and repurposing this seeming deficiency on the king side actually in our favor. You'll find that this commonly happens, right? It seems like this benefits white, but the reality is this open file, what we call a semi-open file, because there's only a pawn of one color on the file, and it happens to be a white pawn, which benefits black here, because we are the ones who can get the rook to g8 and begin attacking operations. Thank you, Tricking9, for the prime. Getting us closer to that 6,700. I have trouble even saying that number. Freaking ridiculous. Thank you, sir. Candidate master is correct. So he's burning a lot of clock here, knight e5. Now, how do we deal with this situation? Do we take on e5? What do you guys think? If not, what do we do? If yes, why? So the problem with a move like knight back to e7 is that it leaves white's knight on an outpost, and we don't want the knight on an outpost. Not every one of your thought processes has to be incredibly complex, some sort of rocket science. Knight on e5 is active. We're taking it. Now, where is this knight going? where is this knight going? There's several schools of thought about how to, yeah, beautiful little outpost. Now, if he takes it, we play FE, and we get this like wedge in the center. I don't know how else to define it. We get this really nice, you know, massive pawns in the center. We can then play F6 and remove his last pawn from the center. He goes knight F3 for that reason. Now, what plan can we now fall back on? I've described this plan before. This plan was proposed. What can we start to do now that we've sort of established everything in the center? This pawn is actually helping us because it's drying things up and it's making it very hard for white to actually get anything done. So king h8 now. Actually, I made an inaccuracy. I should have made a prophylactic move. Let's see if my opponent exploits it well. Let's see if my opponent is able to exploit it. But I actually think I should have played the move rook to c8, stopping c4. I think white should play c4 here and actually try to open the position up to distract my attention from the king side. Not an easy move to play, though. I mean, this takes some serious understanding. And he's burning way too much clock right now. Although even then, we will just take the pawn and proceed with our plan with rook g8. I don't really mind the d file getting opened. I'm going to take on c4. Guys, this guy is honorable. Most people who watch my stream are honorable. I'm not going to assume that people are stream sniping, okay? That goes against my philosophies. Even if he is, big deal. All right, now he prepares c4. So he has the right idea, but I think the execution is a little bit too slow. What should we do? How do we stop c4? And I just mentioned this move. Those of you who are attentive should have no trouble with this move, rook c8. Now, queen c7, right? Guys, again, remember the rule. The queen, we are going to leave for the king side. We need to use the least valuable piece for this kind of stuff. Now, what do? How do we continue our plan? So, we need to be very attuned to the opportunities that have presented themselves as a result of his last move. We don't just put our head down and say, rook g8, king h8, rook g8. We need to be very careful. Okay, what is now possible? It's like, wait a minute, the knight has left the king side. That means there are certain squares, such as h4, which are now available to our pieces. Queen h4 is so much stronger than rook g8 because it brings a piece in with tempo. That's a golden opportunity. And then when we do play rook g8, there might be hell to pay here for white. So let's go rook g8. He's probably going to go f3, and then we're going to start looking for tactics. And there's a couple of beautiful ideas there. Okay, let me calculate something. If you guys don't mind, give me a second, please. Yeah, there's an idea that doesn't quite work. Okay. But, yeah, so I was thinking about sacking with bishop h6 and basically just throwing everything at him. But I'm going to make a crazy argument, guys. There's no need for that. There is no need for that. Where can the knight sink its teeth into? It literally, the only way I describe it, sink its teeth into g3. Okay? Now we want to open up the g file. We do that by repositioning the bishop to h6. Now we start looking for tactics that relate to the g file. White is completely busted here. And now, ladies and gentlemen, what is the very simple way of nurturing the advantage? How do we increase the pressure down the g file? Simple chess. Bishop f4 is a great move, but I want, yeah, double the rooks. Let's bring all the beef in. Bring in the beef. Hashtag bring the beef. Double them, baby, girl. Double them, baby. Now we have ideas like queen takes h3, which we have to consider. Now we can bring the bishop in with bishop h4. Methodical, prepare slowly, attack fast. That's the key. Prepare slowly, attack fast. Now we look for tactics. And do we find them? Let me think, guys, for a second. I want to find a nice way to win the game in style. I am failing to do so. Let me think. Yeah, we're going to go knight e2 and queen h3. That is the simplest. I was trying to find some sort of fancy line, but this is simple enough, and we're completely winning because this is now coming in. The game is over. So, nice game, and a simple attacking game, no crazy stuff, but we don't need crazy stuff oftentimes in order to win the game. And that was the case here. So against the London, I really like the move c5. I highly recommend it to people. e3 takes. Now this leads to an interesting pawn imbalance, right? I have traded my c pawn, and I do need to be, for white's e pawn, which is kind of an interesting scenario, right? Black has more pawns in the center, but white has this pawn majority on the queen side. I don't think this favors anyone in particular. This just leads to an interesting structure. So now I develop my pieces, now g6. So why did I not develop my bishop to g4? Dr. Olono, gifting to Smucker Y-Shaft. Thank you, sir. Well, the reason is that this leaves the pawn on b7. Vasterly, yay, with a prime. I drink 0. This is not soda, this is sparkling water. The queen b3 here is super nasty. It attacks the pawn on b7. It's actually not that easy to defend it. Part of the reason it's not easy to defend it is because the bishop on f4 controls b8. So the move rook b8 is not possible here, and the move b6 allows bishop b5. Now it's actually a very bad thing that the knight has lost its protector. Okay? Queen b6, there's takes. This ruins the pawn structure. I don't love these positions because white has the idea of going knight e5. This layers on some unpleasant pressure. So for that reason, you want to go g6. Yeah, queen c8 is possible, but it's a little bit awkward is what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say, guys, is that this is a little bit awkward, and knight e5, much like in my first speedrun game, can lead to some unpleasant consequences. You remember the Jobava game, right? You kind of remember, just to compare, you remember this game, right? I played knight e5, much the same ideas. Bishop b5 becomes possible. Now, if we compare this to this position, now I'm on the receiving end of something like this. Takes, bishop b5 comes in. I want you guys just to see that white is in initiative, right? That's all I'm trying to argue. So g6 skirts the problem by keeping the bishop on c8, rendering queen b3. Rendering queen b3 useless, right? Rendering queen b3 useless. Okay. So h3. Stopping bishop g4. Now we develop. Now the main reason we won the game is this move, bishop f5. And I want people to really understand this move. Did this move make sense to you guys? And let me just recap. Visually speaking, okay, Botmeister says bishop f5 makes 0 sense to me. Botmeister, you're going to be my litmus test. I want it to make 100% sense to you. Okay, great. Now, let's trace what you guys are thinking. What I feel like is going through your brain, Botmeister, and correct me if I'm wrong. You're looking at this move and you're saying, girl, right? Look at these pawns. Why are you making this so ugly? This is doubled. The king is open. What are you getting in return for that? I'm like, well, come on. Like, damn, girl. Well, here's the thing. What you need to look past the visual deficiencies of the pawn structure. And you need to look at and specifically notice a couple of things. First of all, these pawns are combining to increase their control over this very important central square. On that central square could appear a knight. And this is very similar to a lot of variations, right? You can think about the Marozzi bind variation of the accelerated dragon, for example. Same concept. Two pawns combining to control a square. That's just a proven method to increase your control over the center. That's like the same thing wearing different clothes. But the second thing is that, I think you would agree with me, the G file gets opened, right? This is what's called a semi-open file. Who can benefit from the G file? Well, clearly black is much closer to putting a rook on G8 and attacking white than white is putting a rook on, let's say, G3 and attacking black, right? That's just a fact of chess because you're 2 moves away from getting a rook to G8. The third thing to notice is that even though your eyes are telling you, this is ugly, your brain needs to tell you there's no problem because we can just play E6, and we did. And there's literally, this pawn is as robust as any, right? This center is all protecting each other. So this is completely and perfectly acceptable. Does this begin to make more sense when I explain it like that? Botmeister. Nah, I wouldn't say it's a mistake, but I would consider going bishop e2 or even queen c2, trying to trade on white's own terms. Right, well, it's not the white's pieces. Yeah, definitely. We're very happy to hear that. So b6 here defending the pawn. Knight b2, e6. Knight e5, we take it, and we go knight e4. Guess what? We're reaping the benefits from our move bishop f5. So very understandably, white goes knight f3. I think white should have taken on e4. Now we go rook king h8. I think rook c8 would have been better, stopping c4. And here I think the last chance really for white is to go c4. Open up the position as quickly as possible, distract black's attention. After rook d1, rook c8, we stop c4. You guys might notice, wait a second, can't he take? Nope. Because this is defended and black is up a pawn. And so knight d4 happens. We go queen h4, exploiting the deficiency. Here. Gazda, YouTube is not lagging behind. It's just we're uploading a video a day, doing the best we can. So Paul Scholes, he did do that. That's literally exactly what he did. That's what he did. He did it as soon as possible. He can't do it here because the bishop is hanging. So he does it here, but it weakens the g3 square. That's literally exactly what the problem is. Well, we take toward the center usually. Now bishop h6 to open the g-file, double. Literally everything is very clear. He can't take the queen because of the g-file pin. Drop the queen back. The next move will be bishop f4 with crushing position. Why not take e5 pawn, asks Rockwell. Which position, Rockwell? Here, the pawn is defended by the rook, so at no point could I have taken that pawn, right? Here, it's defended by that hidden bishop. So the pawn is not takeable, unfortunately. What if white king goes to f8? Not sure where. Well, if he goes to f1, well, then you lose control of the bishop. I can just take the bishop. So in these positions, when all of your pieces are attacking, there is just no possible way that there is a defense to be found. Can white take the knight with the bishop? Please tell. Well, yes, so he can. The problem is going to be, look at these dark squares, right? Look carefully at these dark squares. If white now goes f4, what is black's crushing move? Who can tell me? And Min, I'm almost ready for you if you're still around. What you should notice here, you look at the rook, you look at the queen, and say, aha, if the bishop was gone from g7, it would be checked. So how can the bishop move and make the most damage while it's at it? Boom, goes the dynamite. White must defend the pawn, and in the time that white does that, the bishop takes another pawn with the devastating threat of queen h2. White's position collapses completely. Does that make sense? So, but was f3 necessary, asks Henrik DC. Well, I actually think maybe white shouldn't have done that, but in my opinion, if white doesn't play f3, then my idea is to go bishop h6 and double rooks, much like I did in the game. I simply do not see a good defensive resource against that, because white has no play on the other side of the board. That's why counterplay is so important, because without counterplay, you simply nothing you can do. There's too many pieces attacking. Well, if he plays g3, then look at this bishop. You bury the bishop alive and you give up h3. So rook d3, I'm not sure how that helps. Bishop h6. I understand what you're trying to do, but and also knight d2 is a threat, forking the queen and the rook, right? So what you guys are suggesting is putting a band-aid over it, but ultimately my pieces are so active that once I double rooks, there will be hell to pay regardless of how you try to rearrange your resources. You're just too passive. Knight f3, queen h3. Knight f3, you sever the connection between the rook and the pawn. I take on h3. Okay, so you're just not going to win. And if king h1, then knight takes f2. Too many things have to be taken into account here. Counterplay is an attack that is mounted in response to some sort of pressure or attack. Counter-attack, right? An attack of your own. Oh, I personally don't really care. The computer gives -2. I don't really care. Okay, Harshit, I encourage you to ask a question only once because I do see it. So c4 opens up a file. By opening up a file, you are distracting, in a sense, black's attention from the attack, right? You can play rook a to d1 and attack the queen, and at least white gets some activity, right, in return for defending against the attack. All right, guys. Does that all... I hope that all makes sense to everybody. I hope that all makes sense to everybody. Well, Budmeister, but that's a limited, that's a limited mentality. That's a limiting belief that I wouldn't play X. I encourage people not to tell that to themselves. Now, I'm not all about affirmations and stuff, but the thing is, when you tell yourself 94.8, When you tell yourself, I wouldn't find this, I wouldn't find that, then you're never going to start finding these moves. At some point, there has to come a time when you are the first time that you play this kind of move, right? There has to be a first time that you play a move like bishop f5. And if you always tell yourself, I don't have the capacity to play such a move, then you never will. You at some point you have to be your own biggest cheerleader, because nobody else will at some point. Okay, sorry to preach, but that's my opinion. Okay, Kasparov, because there's no other good square for the bishop. Like, this is not great to fianchetto, but fianchettoing in general is pretty solid. So you can think of this in terms of potential energy, right? Not every piece needs to be that amazing. The reality is, if you go e6, then you block the bishop, which I really don't like doing. So this is like the lesser evil, right? And if you develop the bishop, then you allow queen b3. Well, if he doesn't take your bishop, right, if he goes bishop e2, I think this is the main move, actually. Then, black has several moves. I can go knight e4, centralizing my knight. I can basically start preparing e5. Exactly, Swarlson. I like that comparison a lot. Yes, it is, but as I am explaining, right, first of all, the bishop has potential energy. If this diagonal ever opens, the bishop is going to be a beast, and that needs to be factored in. And also, like, the bishop is just a solid piece, right? It's defending certain squares. You shouldn't have this one-dimensional view of pieces. Oh, it's blocked by a pawn, therefore it's terrible forever. Sometimes it's a necessary evil to develop a piece to a certain square like that. And sometimes the piece fulfills other auxiliary functions that are harder to define, but no less important, if that makes sense. Okay, obviously, as I've climbed in rating, I've sort of really I've emphasized these other factors because that's what it takes to succeed at this level. If you're like 800, 900, then you should try to pull out some of the essentials and not bog yourself down too much with the specifics, let's say, of this variation, if that makes sense. Yeah, so queen c1, bishop h6 is possible, but you could go rook e8 and bishop h8. That's a typical way of defending against bishop h6. Well, probably I should go to sleep, but I could also stream all night and all morning and all day.